well, why is it divisible by 0.6, 60%? So what are we talking about here? We're talking about the PPP loan forgiveness application, which is doing what? It's determining how much of your loan is forgivable. So I'm getting a lot of questions from those that say, well, isn't it times 60%? Well, yes, but you have to keep in mind that where we're looking on the application is the determination on page 3 of the forgiveness application of how much is going to be forgiven. And I know that a lot of us just go to the simple math of, well, what's your loan times 60%? That's the requirement. Okay? That's not necessarily at all what is going on here. What they are indicating to you is that, yes, if you have 100,000 and you spent 100,000, okay, then you would have to have spent 60% for that amount to be forgivable. But that's assuming that you spent 100, you had a payroll cost of 60,000 or more, and everybody just wants to stop there. But you can't, because that's actually not at all how this is determined. So here, let me pull up real quick. This is page 3 of the loan forgiveness application, okay? And the divisible portion of this application is line 10, and it's dividing line 1. So line 10 is where it says take line 1 divisible by, and on this that's up right now, it does say 75, but that's because the new application isn't out. Okay, but I'm just showing you that on the application, this is how it reads. The new application will read the same. So when we're looking at this, okay, why do we take it as divisible? Because we're talking about payroll costs. We're not taking the loan amount times 60% on this line item, okay? So if you'll notice here, line 11 is the final determination of how much of the loan's forgiven, okay? And if you look then at line 8, 9, and 10, line 8 is the allowable forgiveness costs, okay? As well as then your utilities and your rent and your mortgage interest, okay? That would be after any haircuts on your payroll cost, okay? That's one determining factor, okay? Line 8. Line 10 is, what was your loan amount? I'm sorry, line 9 is, what was your loan amount? Line 10 is, you're taking your payroll costs and you're dividing it by 0.60%, and you'll see on line 11, it's the lesser of these items, okay? It's the lesser of those 3 items. It's not just simply what's your loan amount times 60%. If you'll notice, that didn't even come into play. I mean, literally, look at that page. It nowhere says take your loan amount times 60%. That's why we don't do it times. So let's look at the whiteboard here. So on the application, why is it divided by 0.6 or 60%? Because we're dividing the payroll cost, okay? We're taking line 1 of page 3 and we're dividing it by 60%. So we're not dealing with the loan there, we're dealing with payroll costs. So loan times 60%, okay? That's not what we're dealing with. So I was saying, nowhere on that application does it say take your loan times 60%. Versus forgiveness max, that's what that line 10 is determining, is what's the max forgiveness. So you have the SBA, they did a press release, okay, on 6/8. They confirmed it's not a cliff, it's not all or nothing. They indicated that if it's less than 60% of the loan, then the loan forgiveness would be a max 60%. That would include the payroll at 60%. All right, so here's a quick calculation. So again, line 1 is payroll costs. Line 10 is payroll cost divisible by 0.6. That'll be what the updated app says. Okay, so we're not doing this based on the loan. That's why it's not a times. So you take your payroll cost, example, 50 grand. So line 1 would be 50 grand. It's an example, okay? So I would take that divided by 0.6, it gives me $83,300. And the reason for that is that in the max forgiveness, if I were to take $83,333 times 60%, that would include $50,000, meaning I can get $83,333 forgiven because it includes at least 60% of payroll. So when you're looking at the loan app, right, that I put up before, line 8 is all your costs. Line 9 is what was the loan amount. Line 10 is 60% divisible of payroll. And line 11 is the lesser of those three amounts. The lesser of the three amounts. Okay, so all your costs may have equaled $100,000. How? Well, you had $50,000 in payroll in this example, and you had $50,000 in rent, utilities, and interest. You're like, well, I spent $100,000. Like, yeah, but okay, you spent $100,000. Your loan was $100,000 in this example, but the max you can get forgiven is an amount that would include 60% that was spent on payroll costs. So line 10 would be, well, what was your payroll cost? Got to inverse it, got to divide it up. It'd be $83,333. That's the max loan forgiveness in this example. It doesn't matter that the loan was $100. It doesn't matter that you spent $100. What matters is you only spent $50,000 on payroll costs. Therefore, the max loan forgiveness you get would be $83,333. You're like, well, that would mean that you could have $33,333 in rent and utilities, $50,000 in payroll cost in this example. That's your forgiveness amount. All right. Hopefully that helps. Now listen, I'd love it if you'd subscribe, and then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in.